मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति सुखदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासवी गौरवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back, and we are looking at 18th chapter. This is the fifth part of the fourth part of the 18th chapter, and the next time we are going to look at 18.65 and 66. So there is a lot of territory to cover today. So I'll just start with the invocation verse for the 18th chapter, by the summary verse actually by Sripad Yamunacharya, where he says the contents of the 18th chapter are Ishware Kartrita Buddhi Sattopayeda Antime Swakarma Parinamascha Shastra Sarata Uchyate. He says there are 4 points mentioned in the 18th chapter. One is how the Lord is the doer, which is the first part. Second is how karma yoga eventually leads to mukti. Third is how bhakti is the essence of the entire shastra. So these are the topics of the and how to stick to sattva-guna. That was the second. So actually we have already finished 2 themes. How the Lord is the doer, that was the first part, where we spoke about the 3 types of tyagas, and the second part is about sattva-guna. We've seen that in detail as well. Today we're looking at the third part, which is Swakarma Parinama, that how karma eventually leads to mukti. Right? So this series actually starts from 42, but 42nd verse we already saw last time. In this particular section, Krishna starts off by talking about the qualities of the various varnas. That means what every varna is very natural to them. Krishna uses the word Swabhavajam. Very natural for them to engage in a particular type of work. So we are going to look today from 43 to 64. So let's read the verses, go through the translations and see the purport as well. Shauryam tejo dhritir dyaksham yuddhe chapya palayanam dhanam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma svabhavajam. So here the kshatriya, what is natural to a kshatriya is mentioned here: plunging into battle without fear, invincibility, conviction to complete a task despite obstacles, the ability to perform all kinds of work in the best manner, not fleeing from the battle even when one is going to be killed, large-heartedness to share one's wealth with others, and having the quality of lordship so that one can control and rule over all the people in the kingdom. These are natural activities of a Kshatriya in accordance with the karmas performed by the persons in previous life. So please note the translation. Swabhavajam. Jam literally means to take birth. Swabhavajam means the swabhava has come because of previous life. Okay, and in this way we see how in this part of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is actually talking about how the varnas are the ones which one is born into because of one's past life. So we have to always balance out. So though Krishna has spoken earlier in 4.13, Chaturvarne Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. So there are such verses also where Krishna is speaking about how particular varna comes by previous life itself. So yeah, we have to accommodate both, because the guna and karma also carry on life after life. Correct? So when we say that the 4 varnas are according to guna karma, it doesn't mean that birth has been cancelled. And that's what we see from the Sanskrit here, Swabhavajam. Okay. Another thing Ramanuja mentions in the purport is that all these activities have to be done by everyone. So he says, for example, like a Kshatriya also he has to control senses. Though control of senses is not very specifically mentioned here. It was mentioned under the task of a Brahmana. But a Kshatriya also, he says, has to control senses, or a Brahmana also has to give charity. Okay. So just like an example we can give, like a student may be good in mathematics and he may do bachelor's in mathematics. But even when he's studying his mathematics bachelor's or master's in mathematics, he has to do 1 or 2 courses in physics. He has to do maybe 1 or 2 courses in some English communication skills, 1 or 2 courses in programming, right? So predominantly he may do mathematics, but he will have to touch upon certain other things also. Similarly, it is Ramanuja says, similarly, every Varna, these were their primary things which they excelled at, which was very natural to them. But even the other things they had to do, though that was not their main task, so to speak. So if you look at this, Shauryam, plunging into battle without fear, like a Kshatriya, he looks forward to that. He has that fighting spirit. He wants to fight. He's ready to go to the battlefield. He's not fearful what will happen and so on. That's a Kshatriya. So in fact, it is said about Lord Rama when he would fight. In Tamil there is one Kamba Ramayana, where Kamba writes, initially it looked as if one Rama was fighting, later 2 Ramas, and ultimately it looked as if unlimited Ramas were fighting. He writes this in the context of the fight Ram had with Karadushan and the 14,000 Rakshasas. And look at this one, Yuddhe api apalayanam, not fleeing from the battle even if one is going to be killed. Okay, so he gives the example of Ravana, how Ravana was unconscious. We know that when the first time when Ravana met Ram on the battle, Ravana was injured and his driver actually took him away home. And Ravana felt very ashamed actually that in this way I was taken away when I was unconscious or when I had been wounded by Ram. So fleeing from the battle is considered very, very something very degraded from a Kshatriya perspective. There are all these stories of even Rajput wives. If their husband would come back with a wound on their back, it seems they would never appreciate it. That means you were running away from the battle and you got shot from behind. Okay, they all prefer to lay down their life rather than running away from the battlefield. So Yuddhe api palayanam. So look at all these qualities, and we see that as well. We see even in it's not that we see these only in the Ramayana or the Mahabharata. Even in contemporary history, we see this, right? We see fighters exhibiting some of these traits. You cannot say that they are completely absent. Some statistics say that even today in Indian Army, more than 70% of those who are in the army are from Kshatriya families only, by birth also. And many of them, they have these spirits also in them. Very, very daring, and they can. And even despite technology, we see that forces have to exhibit such characteristics. It's not that technology solves all problems. Even in 1999 in the Kargil War, we know that Indian soldiers, they had to climb the Tiger Hill and at the middle of the night and then enter and shoot, etc. So everything is not done by technology. We still need people who show their valor, and there are people who show their valor because of which we see various countries having wars, and we cannot completely dismiss, say that none of these are Kshatriyas. No, if the spirit is observed, we will have to accept it, right? And Ishwara Bhavam, he gives a very nice translation. He says, the commentary, he says, Ishwara Bhavam means the ability to get work done by subordinates. That is Ishwara Bhavam. So everybody cannot get work done by others. Right? Everyone is not good at delegation and getting work done. And there are some people who are very, very smart. They get their work done from subordinates. And that indicates Kshatriya nature. That's what Krishna says. Right. So this is the 43rd verse. Moving ahead, we're moving a bit fast today. The 44th verse, this is about the Vaishyas and the Shudras. Krishi Goraksha Manijam Vaishya Karma Subhavajam Paricharyatmakam Karma Shudrasyapi Subhavajam. Agriculture, protection and tending to the cattle, and trading are the occupations of Vaishyas arising from the inherent nature acquired as per previous karma. Rendering services is the activity of Shudra as per intrinsic quality born from their past karma. Okay, so this he is again and again repeating that same translation nature from past karma. He's saying that because of this word swabhavajam. Swabhava means nature. Jam, ajam, it means to be born in that. Okay, so Krishna is repeatedly emphasizing this, that these are actually acquired by previous karma. So Krishi. So Krishi, he says the word Krishi actually relates to plowing the field, but it doesn't stop with that. Hence, Krishi is said to be broadly speaking about farming as well, like that, agriculture. And yeah, so Gauraksha, protecting of cows, and trading, yeah, that is Vanija, business, commerce. This is something which Vaishyas have inherent nature. It's very, very natural them for them to engage in business, etc. It's very, very natural to do these three things. And serving others is the activity of Shudra, because so for him that, in fact, even this is considered a very, very great thing. In fact, if you see, even a Shudra is very much appreciated for his ability to render service to his master, without setting aside his own considerations at times. We see that also. Such an ability to serve someone is something which is very much appreciated. Right? So rendering service in general. So this was considered that the swabhava of a Shudra. So in this way, the varnas have been described. Now what Krishna says is, Swe Swe karman yabhiratah samsiddhim labate naraha swakarma nirata siddhim yata vindanti tachrunu. Then Krishna says the person who is engaged in performing the duties ordained for one's class achieves the supreme Sri Vaikuntha. So samsiddhim is translating as Vaikuntha. Basically, he achieves the supreme good. How such a person who is engaged and performs one's duties attains supreme liberation? I shall explain that now. Listen attentively. Okay, see, because till now what Krishna has done is, Krishna has only listed out the various tasks of each of these varnas. Like Brahmana, what does he do? Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, he has listed. And now this is a verse in the middle, which is a connecting verse, where Krishna is saying that how by engaging in the duties as per one's varna, because somebody may say, Arey, just by engaging in one's varna, how can you achieve the spiritual world, right? So this is the third topic of the 18th chapter. You recall we have been reading from Yamunacharya's verse, right? The third topic of the 18th chapter is how Karma Yoga leads to Mukti. So that part Krishna is going to now explain. Okay, because till now he has just said, at least in this section, he has just listed out the various activities done by each varna. How that will lead to liberation, Krishna is now going to speak. How that will lead to liberation. Right. Yata pravriti bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha sindhim vindanti manavaha. A person attains a supreme liberation by devoted performance of one's stipulated duties as a means of worshipping that Supreme Lord Sriman Narayana, under whose control are all activities like creation, sustenance, existence, dissolution of all the sentient and non-sentient entities, and by whom this entire universe is pervaded, such that he supremely rules over all entities. Okay, so Krishna is saying that how by performing one's duties, one can actually worship Narayana. Ramanujacharya starts with a question, but if somebody has to do a yajna, and let us say that the yajna is for Indra or Chandra, how can it be for Krishna or Narayana? He says, that's why this verse says, Yena sarvam idam tatam. Yena sarvam idam tatam means, he says, you are doing all your actions in this world with the understanding that Lord Narayana or Krishna, who is the Paramatma, who is the Antaryami, all these actions are for him. And I have to do it with the three types of tyaga, which is already said earlier in the 18th chapter, right? We recall, we have discussed this several times. The three types of tyaga, kartatva buddhi tyaga, mamata tyaga, and phala tyaga. I'm not the doer. The action itself is not mine, it's for the pleasure of the Lord, and the fruits are not mine, they are for the pleasure of the Lord. So someone who does everything as an offering to the Lord, understanding he is the Paramatma, and with the tyaga, for such a person, he is going to achieve success. So that is how he comments on this verse, to make it very clear that it's not just that sticking to the varna that gives you that automatically the spiritual world, but you have to dedicate all the actions in your varna dharma to the Lord. So that has to be done. So karmana tamya bhircha. So everything has to be done. So this work is worship concept, right? Which sometimes there can be two types of errors done while talking about work is worship. Some people err by saying that the work only is worship, nothing else to be done. No, it's not like that. So from the Gita, it is very clear that besides the Varna work, one has to consciously offer it to Narayana. One has to do that. It's not that only by that working you are going to achieve anything. And there are other people who go to the other extreme to make fun of it, saying that how can work be worship? Work has nothing to do with God. So where you completely separate out the work as if it has, as if the varna, whatever is done in varna, has nothing to do with pleasing the Lord, and it's completely different. Okay, so both these extremes are to be treated with caution, because if you see this verse, it is very clear that whatever one is doing as per the varna, if you offer it to the Lord consciously with the three type of tyaga, then one will certainly achieve the spiritual abode. In fact, here Ramanuja starts, Ramanacharya, what he says in his commentary, he says that, see, we have to remember Varnashrama Dharma has to be coupled along with Karma Yoga. So what is the connection between Varnashrama Dharma and Karma Yoga? So he reminds us how in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, various aspects of Karma Yoga were mentioned. So if you recall in the fourth chapter especially, there were 13 different types of Karma Yoga that were pointed out by Krishna from 4.25 onwards, like worshipping the Devatas, worshipping, doing for various fire sacrifices, even the pranayam, inhale, exhale, hold, all that was treated as Karma Yoga, traveling to holy places, right? So there were 13 different types of Karma Yoga. We had discussed this when we spoke about 4.25 to, I think it is 4.29. So Karma Yoga means you do something specifically as well for the Lord, which is already mentioned earlier. Ramanacharya reminds us that in this verse, we will have to connect what Krishna is saying here in terms of Varna Dharma to the concept of Karma Yoga. That means I have to do Varna Dharma, but I have to do it as an offering to the Lord, right? This was already spoken earlier. In third chapter also, 3.9. Yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma varna. So whatever is done has to be done as an offering to Him, right? So this concept has to be added over here. So he says, only Varnashrama is not going to give anybody mukti, but Varnashrama, when done as part of Karma Yoga, then one starts advancing. So Karma Yoga is basically Varnashram plus something else. And what is that something else? All these things, doing sacrifices, studying the Vedic scriptures, worshipping the various devas, right? So all that is part of the Karma Yoga. The control of the breath, control of the senses, charity. So all those concepts, these are already spoken in third, fourth chapter. So that has to be added to Varna Dharma. Then it becomes Karma Yoga. And when that Karma Yoga is there, then again the question, does Karma Yoga directly give you spiritual world? He says, no, Karma Yoga is not going to directly give you spiritual world. So what Karma Yoga will do, Krishna is going to mention now. So let us see that. So to see how beautifully Krishna is building up the topic. From verse 42, 43, 44, Krishna spoke about Varna Dharma. Then 45, he said, now I will say how this Varna Dharma will lead you to the spiritual world. 46, he says that whatever one is doing, one should do it as an offering to the Lord, as to Narayana, very consciously. So Karma Yoga is getting added. Now see how Krishna is going to take it ahead. Okay, so this verse is coming here, which was already once spoken by Krishna in 3.35. But Krishna is speaking that verse again. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat sanishtitat swabhava niyatam karma kurvan apnuti kalpisham. Karma Yoga, which is natural to a Jivatma who has spent many times in samsara, even if performed imperfectly, will be much superior than performing Jnana Yoga, which is for those who have control over their senses. Even if one is able to perform it properly for a short period by performing the duties ordained for oneself by the Shastra, which consider one's natural disposition, one does not attain the sinful world of samsara. Okay, so Ramanacharya has maintained the same translation here as he did in 3.35. See, in this verse, when Krishna is saying Shreyan Swadharmo Viguna, the question is how to translate Swadharma. Okay, so one way in which many commentators have translated Swadharma is Varna Dharma, saying that Shreyan Swadharma Viguna means better, like Arjuna, we should better try to be a Kshatriya only rather than be a Brahmana. Okay, so that is one type of translation which many commentators have done. But Ramanujacharya says that translation I will not do this because this is what is the point of why should Krishna even say that better do your own Varna Dharma? That is understood in this. That is so obvious that you can never do somebody else's Varna Dharma. If you are meant to be a Kshatriya, you cannot do the task of a Vaishya or a Brahmana or somebody. No, you have to be Kshatriya only. So Krishna says something, so Ramanujacharya says something so obvious as Varna Dharma, why will Krishna even waste his time saying Shreyan Swadharma Vigunaha, as in do your own Varna Dharma and don't do another's Varna Dharma. So rather he says we have to understand Swadharma here as Karma Yoga. So why he says that? That means for most people in samsara, so here Dharma, Swadharma is from the yoga perspective. That means, see, from the yoga perspective, there's Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, right? And Bhakti Yoga. So Swadharma here, he says, Karma Yoga, which is most natural for most Jivatmas, is the Swadharma. In yoga terms. See, there is Swadharma in Varna term, but that's not what Ramanujacharya speaks here. He says in yoga terminology, for most people, what type of yoga they should do? Karma Yoga they should do. Why? Because that is Swadharma. That is most natural to them. Because why most Jivatmas have spent so many lives in samsara that Karma Yoga is only natural to them. And that Karma Yoga, while doing it, they may, Viguna, they may not do perfectly. They may struggle a little bit, but no problem. This, no problem over here. Even if the Karma Yoga, they are not doing it perfectly. Somebody may say, Karma Yoga, I can't do it properly. No problem. But still, it is better than doing Paradharma. Paradharma here means doing some other yoga system which is not for you. Okay, so Ramanujacharya says this is especially in the context of Arjuna, because Arjuna's question right from third chapter was whether I should do Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. So Arjuna never point blank actually asked Krishna whether I should do Brahmana Dharma or Kshatriya Dharma. I mean, he didn't even ask it because there is no question of raising such a question. There's no point in raising such a question. Can I do the job of a Brahmana? No, Arjuna never raised that question. Arjuna's main question, third chapter, fifth chapter, even starting of 18th chapter, Arjuna is asking about Tyaga and Sannyas. So basically, it is about Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. So Paradharma means he says doing Jnana Yoga which is for someone else, which is not for you. Okay, which is for very rare people in this world who have absolute control over their senses. Okay, right? So that's what Krishna is saying. So that is how Ramanujacharya translates this. He says even so why because he says if you can do Jnana Yoga nicely 10 days also, if you're so Anushtitat means for a small amount of period you are able to do. But he says that Jnana Yoga is such that if suppose somebody starts Jnana Yoga and one engages in some sense gratification, then the whole Jnana Yoga is zero only. You have to start from scratch. He says, but Karma Yoga is not like that. Yeah? So wherever you are, even if some imperfections are there, you can keep coming back to the principles of Karma Yoga, which Krishna has mentioned. So this whole commentary on this verse is centered around this only. That better you do the dharma means the yoga which is meant for you, which is Karma Yoga, rather than trying to do Jnana Yoga for a short period of time, because by doing what is natural for you, the Karma Yoga, you will not attain the sinful world of samsara. In fact, if you don't do this, you're going to be in trouble. So that's how he translates this whole verse, right? Then Krishna builds on this. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api natyajet sarvarambha hi doshena dhume nagnir ivavritaha. Hey Arjuna, karma yoga, since it is natural and easily performable for an embodied being accustomed to doing actions, even though having some difficulties like physical strain, monetary expenses, etc., should not be abandoned, all the yogas prescribed by Shastra, be it Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, will be beset with some difficulties, just like fire is enveloped by smoke. So here Krishna is basically saying, Sahajam Karma, it is most easy, Karma Yoga is most easy for you, even if it has dosha. So Ramanujacharya raises, what is the dosha Krishna is speaking here? Because what is dosha? Does dosha mean sin? It is no, dosha here is not sin. Dosha means some klesha, some problem in doing it. So he says, for example, if you have to do Karma Yoga, then you have to earn money. If you want to do some sacrifice, or like a Kshatriya here, Arjuna, he has to fight with his grandfather. So it's like a little painful, right? There is a dosha. Dosha here is, he's saying dosha is not papa. Dosha is klesha. Klesha as in trouble. Okay, so that means any varna dharma, any karma yoga, if you do, there is some trouble in that. Something you have to earn money, some strain is there. Okay, sahajam, but still you have to do karma yoga only. Krishna is saying. Sarvarambha is because everything is covered with difficulty. So what Krishna is saying here, even if you try Jnana Yoga, don't think Jnana Yoga is easy. That has its own set of doshas, difficulty. Because controlling the senses, which is the essence of Jnana Yoga, is not always very easy. Okay, so that's how he translates this particular verse. Every yoga is having some difficulty, which is like the smoke covering the fire. So don't think that only Karma Yoga is having problem and Jnana Yoga doesn't have a problem. So this is how Ramanujacharya translates this verse or gives the commentary. Considering the context that Arjuna's question right from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita was, should I do Karma Yoga or Jnana? So from the third chapter. So that that is kind of getting completed here. Yeah. 49th verse. Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vijataspruha naiskarmya siddhim paramam sanyasenadi gacchati. One who has his intellect unattached to the karma he performs and its results, he who has conquered his mind and he who does not think of oneself as the doer of the karma by practicing merely karma yoga with the threefold sattvika tyaga as explained, one attains the grand state of yoga, which is the meditation on Jivatma. See, now what Krishna is doing is Krishna is building up. See, because till now, what did Krishna say? Today's discussion, what did we say? Krishna initially spoke about the Varna Dharma. Then he said that Karma Yoga also you have to do. Now Krishna is saying that by doing that Karma Yoga, how you are going to get, how you are going to come to the excellent position. So it's kind of in one sense a recap of everything that is said, but let's look at it. One who has his intellect unattached to the karma he performs and the result. Sarvatra asakta buddhihi. So for this, Ramanujacharya says that the three type of tyagas have to be there. He reminds us of that. Okay, second is control of mind. Vigata spruha, one who doesn't think oneself as a doer of the karma, which we have already spoken, right? Which is Tartarutva buddhi tyaga. And sannyasena. Here again, sannyasa doesn't mean that formal sannyas, but basically doing karma yoga with the threefold tyagas is basically called as sannyas, which Krishna has already explained in the 18th chapter. By doing all this, what happens? Krishna is saying the fruit. One comes to Naishkarmya Siddhyam. What does Naishkarmya mean? Literal word of Naishkarmya means to stop karma. Okay, but Krishna is saying, no, that's not what is being said here. Naishkarmya here means he will come to a level where he can sit and do dhyana. That means he can sit and be completely focused on the Lord. Okay. Because it's all connected, right? So how by that karma yoga done in the proper state, it will give you that adhikar to sit and do your dhyana. Which dhyana it is? He reminds us this is the dhyana of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Where Krishna had spoken about how you have to do dhyana, etc. So that is it. Now the thing is, so is this automatically mukti? He says no. So basically karma yoga leads to the dhyana, then that dhyana one has to practice. And then there is Atma Sakshatkar. So all this will come now. 18.50 is the next verse. Siddhim prapto yata brahma tatapnoti nibodame samaseneva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya yapara. Hey Arjuna, by which means one who has attained the state of meditation experiences the pure and essential nature of Jivatman, which is the highest objective of practicing the yoga of meditation. Hear from me as I briefly explain about the means. Okay, so how to achieve the next level? That is what Krishna is now going to speak about, right? So till now, Krishna spoke about achieving that. Till the previous verse, we saw that how by the correct practice of karma yoga with the tyagas, you will come to a situation where you can do meditation. Now, when you are going to sit and do meditation, what are the qualities you should have as part of your meditation? Because see, that karma yoga done like this with the meditation will lead you to the Brahma Bhuta stage. That's what Krishna is coming to. Correct? So Krishna is now taking you ahead. See, this is how karma yoga basically leads to mukti. Right? So there are certain qualities one has to cultivate, which Krishna now speaks in 3 verses. Buddhya Vishuddhya Yukto Dhrityatmanam Nishamyacha Shabdadin Vishayan Stektva Raga Dvesha Vidasyacha. With complete, clear, and true knowledge about the nature of the Jivatma and along with strong sattvic determination, restraining the mind, abandoning the external sense objects such as sound, smell, touch, sight, and taste by removing them from one's proximity and by casting aside the likes and dislikes related to sense objects that are not nearby. Okay, so Krishna is building up. So if you see carefully, this verse is kind of not completed. Krishna has only listed certain qualities here. And what are the qualities? First is purified intelligence. Purified intelligence means what Ramanujacharya says, should have understood everything, no doubts, and should have not understood anything wrongly. So three things he says. You have to understand, you should not have doubt, and whatever you have understood, there should not be any wrong understanding in that. So somebody may think I have understood perfectly, but he has wrong understanding. So three things he says. He says if all the three things are there, then you have purified intelligence. Then dritya, determination, because that is needed in order to control the mind. Keep distractions far away. Shabdadin Vishayan Tektva. Okay, so that means one is not engaged in sense gratification. See, the beauty of the Gita is Krishna talks about not engaged in sense gratification, but at the same time, he talks about engaging the senses in Karma Yoga. See, many times, what happens is when people see or overly focus on no sense gratification, that is sometimes also seen as okay, if you don't engage with anything at all. That's not how Krishna presents it. Okay, he is only speaking about how sense objects, be careful from that. So that's his point. Raga Dvesha means the likes and dislikes related to sense objects that are not nearby. See, two types of things you say. One which is nearby and one which are not nearby. It's something which is there in our mind. They're thinking that we don't do it. So these are some set of qualities. So who has to cultivate all these? The one who is meditating now. Okay, so the person who is meditating has to cultivate these things. So who is the person meditating? That person who has done Karma Yoga. Who is the person doing Karma Yoga? Who is situated in Varnashram properly? So the whole thing is connected. You are in Varnashram, you are now doing Karma Yoga with that. You are now, and you are doing Karma Yoga as an offering to the Lord with the three type of Tyaga, so you are able to meditate. And while you are meditating, these are some of the qualities Krishna has emphasized on. Let's see, there are total 16 qualities Krishna mentions in verse number 51, 52, 53. Okay, so we're going through that. 52nd verse. Vivikta sevi lagvashi yatava kaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha. By living in a secluded place which is free from any obstacles to meditation, by having moderate amount of food, by making the activities of the speech, body and mind conducive to the process of meditation, being devoted to perform meditation for maximum extent possible every day, and nourishing the dispassion towards sense objects by examining their blemishes. So again, if you see carefully, the topic is not yet complete. Krishna has only listed some things. Vivikta Sevi, that means being in a secluded place. Generally, the seclusion has been emphasized a lot. And we should not think that the seclusion is only for some impersonal people, etc. If you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when he comes to Jagannath Puri, the devotees, they give him Gambhira, the place for his residence. And one of the reasons they say it is a secluded place, so you can stay there. So, that word comes also, secluded place. It says that Gambhira is a very secluded place. It will be suitable for you, O Lord. So please stay in Gambhira. So this understanding that to have some seclusion is not at all important, it's not correct. So for any type of yogi, whether you are Karma Yogi, Bhakta or whoever, everyone needs some seclusion to be free from, because too much of interaction is also considered a problem. Too much interaction is also considered a problem. Right? Laguashi, moderate amount of food. Krishna is repeating things from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 6.16 he had said this, moderate amount of food, etc. Activities of speech, body and mind conducive. That means, then body posture should be straight. So all that is now coming here again. And Ramanujacharya, a very nice point he says in the purport. He says that, see, there are two things here. One is called Angam and one is called Upaya. So, just to give a mundane example, suppose I have to go to the temple, then putting petrol in my vehicle is called Anga, and driving to the temple is Upaya. Okay. So, but both are not considered equal. As in, so he says here, the control of the senses is Anga. Anga is like auxiliary. And dhyana, the nitya dhyana, this word is there, na, nitya dhyana, that means being devoted for meditation. So basically, the point is not engage in sense gratification and being devoted to meditate on the Lord. Both of these, he says, are not at the equal level. Being meditating on the Lord is much superior to the other one. As in, that's considered like the direct process. Whereas these other things are considered upaya, anga, sorry, they're auxiliaries. They're important, but they're auxiliaries. But this is the main thing. So he says that when Krishna has said many qualities, we shouldn't think all are at equal level. Nitya dhyana, this is considered Nitya dhyana means daily meditation on the Lord. So this is considered very important. So this who is supposed to do this? Karma yogi is supposed to do. He's supposed to do, right? And when he does this, then what happens now? See, now Krishna completes this theme. From 51st verse, he was mentioning all the qualities the karma yogi should have who's meditating. Look at these qualities. This is the last verse in that. Totally, as I said, 16 qualities are mentioned in 51, 52, 53. Ahankaram, balam, darpam, kamam, krodham, parigraham, vimuchya nirmama shanto, brahma bhuyaya kalpate. By getting rid of the wrong notion that the body is self. In this verse, there are 8 things mentioned. First is ahankara. Ahankara means the wrong notion body is self. One should rid of that. Balam. Balam, he says, is related to vasana. Vasana bala. That means the strength of the tendencies inherent in us, vasanas, by getting rid of that. The arrogance generated by ahankar, darpa. Desire for objects other than jivatma, kama. The anger which is directed toward those who obstruct the attainment of material desires, parigraham. Regard for objects which generate all the above qualities. Nirmama, not having possessiveness, feeling of mind with respect to wife, children, land. So Nirmama doesn't mean one doesn't have all this. You can have everything, but not being overly possessive, thinking that these are mine, etc. Finding joy in experiencing Jivat. 8 qualities Krishna has mentioned here. All these qualities Krishna says one should have. Who should have? That Karma Yogi should have, who is sitting and meditating. He should have all these qualities, 16 qualities. If you have all these 16 qualities, now what will happen? Krishna is going to say in 18.54. Let us say something more on some of these verses. Parigraha means, he says in the commentary, not to think too much about anything. I mean, not to be too attached to anything, but at the same time, just keep doing everything as a matter of duty. Like that, he says. So like that. So all the 16 qualities, the fellow who is sitting and meditating, the karma yogi, he should have. When he has that, he will reach this. Okay, so the karma yogi who is engaging in varnashanam, who is doing karma yoga, which was spoken in 3rd, 4th, 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, with all these qualities, what will happen? If he does the meditation, he will come to Brahma Bhuta level. That is what Krishna said. This very famous verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Nagamshati Samas Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. The person who has realized the pristine, essential nature of the Jivatma, having attained a serene mind which is clean of the impurities of Ahankara and Mamakara, does not grieve about the loss of anything material, does not hanker for any mundane objects. He considers everything else apart from Bhagavan as worthless as mere straw and attains the supreme devotion to me called Parabhakti. Okay, so Ramanujacharya says Brahma Bhuta means the Jivatma who has reached the Sakshatkar, he has reached Atma Sakshatkar level. This is, see, the Karma, see, that's what. Karma Yoga doesn't give you directly liberation. Karma Yoga done with the Tyaga Bhava makes you eligible to do meditation. Okay, and that meditation, if done, you can reach the platform of self-realization. Here, and he has not yet gone out of samsara. Even here, he has not got mukti. He is still here only. In this world only he is sitting. Okay, Prasannatma means what? Person with clear mind, without klesha, without karma complexities, and without raga and bhaya, all those things. Without that, when a person is, then he's called as Prasannatma. That means nothing is now bothering him. Nothing can disturb him now. That's Prasannatma. That means there may be troubles in his life, but nothing is disturbing him really. Doesn't lament for anything except spirituality. As Krishna has said in 6.22 earlier, Gurunapi Vicharyate. Samas Sarveshu. See, the Samas Sarveshu has come here, and Ramanujacharya reminds us of the entire 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where how much Krishna spoke about Samatva. And this bhakti is called as Parabhakti. Okay, so there is something called Parabhakti. In the next verse, there will be Parama Bhakti. This is Parabhakti. Parabhakti means what? Parabhakti means because of coming to this position, a person has a desire to know about the Lord, to see the Lord and to think about him. Okay, so because he has now come on Atma Sakshatkar, if he knows about, if he has heard about Paramatma, Narayana, Krishna, etc., now he starts feeling, I should achieve him. I should want to see him. Like that, he just starts feeling. This is called Parabhakti. Okay, and that's what Krishna is saying. Mad Bhaktin Levate Param. So Parabhakti means this, that particular feeling. Now, this feeling, is that all? No, there is something else ahead, right? Because with this feeling, so the one is the feeling that I want to achieve Krishna, and one is to actually achieve Krishna. So that is called Parama Bhakti. So this is Parabhakti. In the next verse is Parama Bhakti. 18.55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato ma tatvato nyatvam vishate tadanantaram. Through the means of Parabhakti, the previous Bhakti, which was Parabhakti, he gets a vision of me, Abhijnana, Abhijanati. That means he gets the Parajnanam. Parajnanam is the topmost knowledge in this world is to understand the Lord, wherein he perceives who I am in terms of my essential nature and my natural disposition, how I am in terms of magnitude of auspicious qualities and wealth I possess. Having got a vision of me with all my glories, as I really am, thereafter, by means of Parama Bhakti that he has developed for me, he attains me. Okay, so now in this verse, actually, the devotee has come to something called as Parama Bhakti. Parabhakti is previous, where just because of being self-realized and hearing about the Lord, a desire came to know about him. Okay, and then in this verse, what happens? The first line in this verse, there is Parajnanam. Parajnanam means he has understood the Lord properly. That is the topmost knowledge. Abhijanati, that means to understand perfectly. And now that he is understood, now he has Parama Bhakti. Parama Bhakti means what? Ramanujacharya says Parama Bhakti means I want to achieve Krishna only, else I will give up my body. He says it is just like Sita and Ashoka Vatika, who said that in 1 month, if I don't achieve the Lord Hanuman, I am not going to continue my life. This type of feeling, if someone has, like the gopis, we hear all these stories, right? That if I cannot get Krishna, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lamenting, without getting Krishna, why my life is continuing? This type of feeling which one has, then that means one has Parama Bhakti. That means I want to actually achieve Krishna. And if I don't, I cannot even live. That real feeling you should have inside. This feeling, okay, one who understands me comes, so this feeling if he has, then he's said to have Parama Bhakti. Okay, so this is the connection. So person has come here. Okay. Now see, now the beauty is even after speaking such a thing, now if you see what the next verse, what Krishna speaks, right? We will be kind of a little bit surprised. See, Krishna is going back to karma. See, it's so amazing because somebody may think, "Arey, itna sab bolne ke baad, why is Krishna going back?" Because the whole mood of the Gita is to tell you that, hey, look, Arjuna, you can't give up what you're supposed to do. Okay, you may be my Parama Bhakta, but still in this world, and when you are there, whatever you are supposed to do, you will have to do only. That you cannot simply give up. Sarva karmanyaphi sada kurvano mad vyapashrayah mad prasada davapnoti shashvatam paramam padam abhyayam. The person who undertakes always the daily and occasionally ordained works along with the kamya karma, with the threefold sattvika tyaga, with a clear conviction that Bhagavan is the main agent, the karma is under his control and the result of karma is also his, such a person becomes the recipient of my grace and gains the opportunity to pursue Parabhakti through my blessings and attains the permanent, imperishable and comprehensible. See, what Krishna is now doing is, Krishna is saying that, see, even if you have got Parama Bhakti, you have the desire to achieve it, because Arjuna is already there, right? He's a Parama Bhakta or even more than that. But he says, no, that person also, he has to do Sarva Karmani. Now see, the Sarva Karmani, Ramanuja translates very interestingly. He says, Sarva Karmani means he should do all three types of karma. If you remember in the beginning of 18th chapter, we spoke about Nitya Karma, which is like daily, or at regular intervals. Then there is Naimittika Karma, like eclipse and some certain things. And then Kamya Karma, like one gets married or one does, a king does some Ashwamedha Yajna or something like that. So kamya karma, with certain desires one does that. Right? So all these have to be done, he says. So sarva karma. So Ramanujara in his commentary focuses a lot on this word sarva karma. Sarva karmani in this is that no, you cannot say that only no, all types of karma the person will have to do. See, because that's the spirit of the Gita. The Gita, even though it has taken you to the topmost level of bhakti, it doesn't forget the roots only. It doesn't let you go from there. Right? Because that's what Krishna wants to tell Arjuna. You have to be connected to this world. You have to fight. You have to fight your grandfather. There is no choice from that. You can become a Parama Bhakta, but that you will have to do only. That is your karma as a Kshatriya. You will have to do that. Okay. So like that he says. And then he says that that means even this is a proof that Gita, even after attaining a top level of Bhakti Yoga, has not forgotten Karma Yoga. Krishna is not saying now that you have come to 18.55, you don't have to do any karma. No, he's bringing Arjuna back to that, saying that no, see, you will have to do all types of things. Okay. And then another word which Ramanujacharya focus here is the word avyayam. See, avyayam is generally imperishable or comprehensive. So generally, we may feel avyayam is referring to the padam. That means the avyayam is basically, avyayam can be seen either as an adjective or as an adverb. Like, adjective means it's something to, for the noun. And adverb means it is addressing a particular verb. So Ramanujacharya says here, avyayam is an adverb here. Adverb means you have to see it connected to the verb apnoti. Apnoti means what? Attain. That is a verb, right? Apnoti is to attain. That's a verb. So he says avyayam is an adverb, indicating that you have to, that means that attainment which is there is imperishable and comprehensive. So like that he focuses. Right. Now having said this, see, now after having said, now we are actually in a sense, this is coming to the end of Krishna's instructions. It is like we tell a child to do certain things and then we say, if you don't do, then what happens, right? Because you have to say that also, right? He should study. So Krishna is emphasizing that. Look at the next 2-3 verses. Chetasa sarva karmani mahi sanyasya matparaha buddhi yoga upashritya machitya satatam bhava. Yeah. So Krishna is saying, with your intellect fixed with the thought that you are subservient to me and exist for my purpose, surrender as a form of worship. See, sannyasa is surrender as a form of worship. All your ordained karmas, including kamya karma, unto me, offering doership and ownership of the karmas to me, considering attaining and pleasing me as the supreme goal, retain all these thoughts, including the threefold satvika tyaga till the very end, and become one who always performs all his ordained karmas with his mind continuously fixed on me. It's in one sense a beautiful summary of everything. Krishna is saying that see, you should have chetasa, you should have a chetana. 2 times he uses a similar word, chetasa and finally chittaha. It kind of comes from the same root, that you have to be completely fixed in me. See, sannyasa here again, sanyasya. It is not sannyasa, it is sanyasya. Sanyasya means you have to give everything to me. What is that everything? Sarva karmani. How to give everything? Using those 3 tyagas, which we have emphasized since the starting of the 18th chapter. Alright. So with this, when you do, then only you are going to please me and attain the supreme goal. And now then see, now he says, if you don't do, then what happens? It's a very common thing, right? Like a child, we tell a child that you should study well. And then we say, hey, if you don't study well, you become a watchman. So you have to say that also. Okay, if you don't study, then what will happen to you also? You have to tell the child. So that is what Krishna is telling Arjuna in the 58th verse. Machitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyati atachetam ahankaran nashroshyasi vinansyasi. With your mind ever focused on me and performing all your ordained duties as a form of worship to me, by my grace you will easily overcome all the troubles in the world. However, if you think with haughtiness means ahankar, that you can yourself discriminate between the good and the bad and you need not learn from me, and thus do not act according to my instructions, you will remain drowned in the ocean of samsara. Beautiful words. So Ramanujacharya says Krishna is not saying this as a shapa, as a curse. And he reminds us that this verse is not a curse to Arjuna. This verse is coming from the heart of Krishna. Because Krishna loves Arjuna so much because Arjuna is his great devotee, a very close friend, he's his cousin. So many relationships they have of intimacy. So out of that closeness, Krishna is saying, hey, listen, if you don't listen to my instructions now, then what will happen? You will be destroyed. Now that you will be destroyed means it's not that I'm going to curse you or something, but these instructions which I've given you, these are so practical in this world that if anybody doesn't listen to this, then that person cannot come up only. He will remain drowned in samsara. Durgam. So this word Durgani is saying Durgam. Durgam means this path is very difficult. Path means the path of spiritual life. He says is very difficult, but it becomes very easy if you follow the instructions of Krishna. And if you don't, then you are going to be stuck. And then now see, in 59th verse, he says the same thing in a slightly different way. Yada ahankaram ashritya nayotse iti manyase nityesha Devasayaste Prakritiswam Niyokshasi. However, if you hold on to the conceit that you are immensely knowledgeable and you can discriminate yourself between the good and the bad and thinking that you are independent, if you decide not to fight, then this determination of yours is futile as it will not stay, it will change. Your intrinsic nature, which comes as a result of your papa and punya, will impel you to fight and you won't be able to control yourself there. It's a beautiful verse. Krishna is emphasizing here, hey Arjuna, there is no question that you will not fight. See, this is how a scripture is. It's from where it starts, it ends over there. This whole scripture, Gita, started with Arjuna saying, I don't want to fight. We are coming, we are coming to the end, so we are just looping back. And Krishna is saying, either you will fight as per my direction, as per Karma Yoga, you will fight properly, or you will fight for the wrong cause. The decision to not fight will become mithya. Why will it become mithya? Since your nature will force you to fight. Ramanujacharya says, see, either you can be paratantriyam to Lord or you can be paratantriya to your Swabhava. But you cannot be Swatantra. He says the Jiva doesn't have the capacity to be Swatantra or fully independent. He has to be either a paratantriyam to the Lord, that means he has to submit to the Lord's instructions and act in this world, or you have to be surrender to your own Swabhava and act. And that's what Krishna says. You will surrender to your Swabhava, and at the wrong time you will start fighting because that nature of yours is not going to go. And this all Krishna is saying after taking him to 18.5. Please remember, 18.55 was like a top bhakti level. But still he's saying that even at that level, you will have to do this. Okay. Why like that? Krishna again is emphasizing in 60th verse. Swabhavajena kaunteya nibandhasvena karmana kartum nechasi enmoha tarishyas avashopiyate. Hey Arjuna, that battle which due to delusion you do not wish to perform, then also without your own volition, bound by inherent disposition of a Kshatriya in you, like heroism, courage, which are embedded in your nature due to past karmas, you will fight in this battle. So Krishna is saying, see, as per Papa and Punya and a particular mode, you have a particular Varna and you have Shauryam. That Shauryam will make you fight only. Okay. So at this point, Arjuna, Ramanujacharya says, there's a question in his mind. Arjuna's question in his mind is, see, for good things, we understand Lord is the cause. But what about bad things? Suppose if I do something bad like this. Suppose if I don't listen to the Lord and I start fighting at the wrong place, wrong time. Then for that also is the Lord only responsible? So this question, Ramanujacharya says, comes to Arjuna's mind. So that is the connection between 60th verse and 61st verse. So because of which the Lord says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana Viddesha Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Runani Maya. Hey Arjuna, the Supreme Lord Vasudeva who resides in the heart of all beings, where the knowledge which is the cause of one's action or inaction arises, who are encased in a machine in the form of the body and indriyams, using the Prakriti which has three gunas of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, make all living beings to act as per their inherent gunas and control each being. So because this question came in Arjuna's mind, is the Lord responsible for the wrong things also that I do or only for the right things? Because Krishna said, right, if you don't obey me, you will get lost. So that become a wrong thing. For that wrong thing also is the Lord only responsible. Like this question, Ramanujacharya says, it comes in Arjuna's mind. So Krishna is answering, yes, it is true. I am only the Paramatma. I am only controlling. But he says, Paramatma doesn't work as per Bhuta Desha Nyaya. Paramatma functions as sadharana karana. So in the commentary, what he says, Bhuta Desha Nyaya means like a ghost possesses somebody. When a ghost possesses somebody, that person who possesses absolutely no independence, right? He has to do whatever the ghost says. The ghost says, come on, drink liquor. He has to drink liquor. Or like a puppeteer controlling a puppet. The puppet has absolutely no independence. Whatever puppeteer does, that puppet has to dance like that. So this is called Bhuta Desha Nyaya. So Ramanujacharya says in commentary, Krishna as the Paramatma in the heart is not controlling us like Bhuta Desha Nyaya. Okay, he is not controlling us like that. Then how does he control us? He controls us like a Sadharana Karana. Sadharana Karana means he gives an example. Just like the teacher once gave a flame to a student. So all the students at night, the teacher gave one lamp with fire in it. And some students, what they did, they understood when the teacher is giving fire. Oh, that means our teacher wants us to study at night. So they sit at night and they study. But there are some other mischievous student, what he thinks, he thinks, oh, I got fire from the teacher, which means I should go and set fire to somebody's house. Okay, so he goes and sets fire to someone's house. Now, if you ask who is the cause of this, so some students studied at night and some students did mischief by setting fire to someone's house. Who is the cause of them all? And the answer is the teacher only is the cause because he only gave all of them fire. But the teacher giving the fire is considered sadharana karana. Okay, he gave you the fire, but he didn't make you do what you did. Okay, that decision, so this is what we call as the minute independence. Okay, you have got the facility from the Lord. So the Paramatma is permitting us, the Paramatma is giving us facility, but still you cannot say that. So Krishna is making it very clear here that I am there in the heart and I am only giving all guidance, facility, everything in the middle world. But Arjuna, remember, you are only responsible if you do some wrong action with that fire which you get from the teacher. So sadharana karana. So he says we should remember sadharana karana and we should remember Paramatma sadharana karana, not as Bhuta Desha Nyaya like that. Okay. Then Krishna, in this last two verses for the day, Krishna says, Tameva Sharanam Gaccha Sarva Bhavena Bhavirata Tat Prasadat Param Shantim Sthanam Prapsasi Shashvata. Hey Arjuna, descendant of Bharata lineage, surrender unto him the Supreme Lord, who is none other than I, in all manner, by his grace alone. You will get freed from the bondage of karma which obstructs the attainment of moksha, and you will attain the eternal highest abode of Vishnu, Sri Vaikuntha. So now what is this surrender? So Ramanujacharya says that this surrender is not the surrender of 18.6566. This surrender is surrender to the instructions of Krishna. So basically, Lord is emphasizing here, Arjuna, just surrender unto his instructions. What are his instructions? To do karma yoga, to do dhyana, come to the level of bhakti. All these instructions which Krishna gave in the entire Bhagavad Gita, to that he is asking Arjuna to surrender. Samayeva Sharanam Gaccha. So that is the commentary here. And if you do that, what happens? You will not have to worry. Why? You will come to the spiritual world. Okay? You will come to the spiritual world. Okay? So he says at this point, actually, the Shastra is over. It's kind of done. Okay? So Krishna says in 63, Itite jnana makyatam dukhyat dukhyataram maya vimrushayete deshena etechasi tatakuru. Okay? So he says, see, Guhya, this word in Ramanujacharya says, there is Guhya, there is Guhyatara, there is Guhyatama. Okay, Guhya means these days, knowledge about Swarga is called Guhya. Why? Because he says, in this world, you cannot understand about Swarga setting in this world. So all things, knowledge about things in this world, whether it is any science, mathematics, physics, everything is called ordinary knowledge only. So that is not considered Guhya, because everybody can understand it. Guhya means something confidential, like Swarga is Guhya. Because by your own effort, you can never understand what is Swarga Loka. You have to listen to the Shastra. So, Swarga, understanding of Swarga, how to go to Swarga, for those who are interested, is called Guhya. Guhyatara, used in this verse, he says, is about Vedanta knowledge. That is liberation. That is Guhyatara. And Guhyatama, he says, is Bhakti, which is going to come in the next verse. So there is Guhya, Guhyatara, and Guhyatama. By and large, this is Gita is talking about Guhyatara and Guhyatama, because it is talking about liberation, as in how to get out of material entanglement, and it is talking about Bhakti, which is Guhyatama. Right? So in this verse, it is Guhyatara. Krishna is saying that I have said whatever I wanted to say, and this Vedanta knowledge is Guhya. And thus, this knowledge of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, which is more secret than the knowledge regarding worldly affairs and the way of attaining Swarga, etc. And so that's what the commentary is, which is included here. Has been comprehensively explained by me, who is omniscient, omnipotent, best friend, and well-wisher of all, to you who has sought shelter under me, wanting to know what is good for you. Analyze this entire teaching critically and repeatedly, and whichever of the three yogas you think is best course of action for you, you choose and follow that. See, now Ramanujacharya gives a very interesting commentary to that last line, Yate Chasi Tata Guru. Generally, we translate Yate Tata Guru as do whatever you want. So, can I not fight also? No, Ramanujacharya says, no, that's not Krishna saying. Yate Tata Guru means, see, I told you three yoga systems, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. And in these yoga system also, you can practice by many, many ways. Karma Yoga, there is not one way of practicing Karma Yoga, right? Karma Yoga means doing Varnashram plus doing things like either sacrifice or reading the Vedas. So there is an option. Either one may engage in sense control, one may do sacrifices, one may read the Vedic scriptures, one may give charity. So some options are there in that, like the fourth chapter, 13 options which you mentioned. Similarly, Bhakti Yoga also, there are some ways, slightly different ways in which one could focus. Somebody may focus more on Kirtanam, somebody on Shravanam. So all that already has been spoken. So Ramanujacharya says, Yate Chasi Tata Guru means that. That means you have to follow Bhagavad Gita, but in that you can take whatever you want and follow. You can choose one aspect of Bhakti Yoga, you can choose some aspects of Karma Yoga, but what I said you will have to do only. I mean, you will have to do Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga as well. So there's no question of not doing any of these. But in that, some minor options will be there. So that is how Ramanujacharya interestingly translates this verse, indicating that it is not that somebody can say after reading Bhagavad Gita, I don't want to do any of the yoga. No, that's not what he's saying. That okay, among this you do whatever you want. Like that he translates. It's very interesting translation. And the last verse for the day. Sarva Guhyat Tamam Bhuyah. See, now Guhyat Tamam comes. I'm going to tell you that. Guhyat Tara is over, now Guhyat Tamam. Sarva Guhyat Tamam Bhuyah Srinume Paramam Vachah. Ishtosime Dridamiti Tato Vakshyami Tehitam. As you are exceedingly dear to me, I shall now tell you what is most beneficial for you. That is Guhyat Tamam. About Bhakti Yoga again, which is the great secret of all secrets that I told you, which is the quintessence of the entire Gita Shastra. Listen to my greatest teaching of this Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so this is the topmost thing, Guhyat Tamam. Okay, Guhyat Tara is general Vedantic knowledge, how to attain liberation. Guhyat Tama is the speciality of Bhakti, which is going to be spoken in 18.65 and 66, which is our next session, which will be the second last session. And then there is one more session where we'll see the last 10 verses of the Gita, as well as some of there are another 10 verses of Yamunacharya from his Gita Sangraha, which we need to see and wind up the text. Anybody has any question here? Any question? We don't have too many people today. That's good. Okay, that's fine. There's no question. We'll end. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.